The snow falls in thick, cottony flakes as I steer my car along the winding Vermont roads. Each curve carries me farther from Boston, from quarterly reports, client crises, and the constant ping of notifications that have ruled my life for the past 3 months. With every mile, my shoulders ease a little more. 10 days, I remind myself, my breath fogging the chilly air inside the car. 10 days of absolute quiet. The dashboard clock glows 2:17 p.m. I'm making good time, better than expected, considering the weather. The cabin is just 20 minutes ahead. My sanctuary, my reward for years of careful budgeting and late nights. While my colleagues spend their bonuses on New York weekends or designer handbags, I've always played the long game. 2 properties by 32. Not bad for a marketing manager from a middle-class background with no inheritance to fall back on. Well, no financial inheritance. Responsibility, though? That was passed down in abundance. The evergreens lining the road wear heavy white coats, their branches dipping under the weight. I know that feeling all too well. 5 years as Tessa's caretaker have taught me plenty about carrying burdens. I love my sister, but Christmas brings out the worst in her neediness. Her demands multiply like the twinkling lights across the city. This year I chose differently. I chose myself. 10 days of solitude. Tessa pouted when I told her, but she's 26 now. She has Derek. She doesn't need me managing her gift list or hosting her friends for Christmas Eve cocktails. The cabin comes into view around the final bend, nestled against the mountainside like something out of a postcard. My grip on the steering wheel tightens when I see not 1 but 2 vehicles in the circular driveway, Tessa's cherry red Jeep and a mud-splattered pickup I don't recognize. What the hell? My first thought is a break-in. My second, that something's happened to Tessa. Some emergency must have brought her here. My pulse quickens as I park behind the Jeep and grab my phone, ready to call 911 if needed. The cabin windows glow with warm light. Music drifts through the walls, not the soft jazz I left playing on my last visit, but Christmas pop songs blasting at full volume. I trudge through ankle-deep snow to the porch, key in hand, though I doubt I'll need it once I turn the knob. The door swings open to a scene so surreal I briefly wonder if I've driven to the wrong cabin. A Christmas tree, massive, gaudy, dripping with multicolored ornaments, dominates the corner by the fireplace. Garland snakes across every surface. Scented candles flicker on the coffee table, filling the air with clashing clouds of cinnamon and pine. And people. So many people. Strangers sprawled across my furniture, drinking from the hand-blown crystal wine glasses I gave Tessa last Christmas. A middle-aged couple I don't recognize occupies my reading chair. 3 20-somethings crowd around the kitchen island, mixing drinks in my grandmother's punch bowl. In the center of it all stands Tessa, her blonde hair twisted into an elaborate updo, wearing a red sweater I recognize from my own closet. Beside her, Derek laughs with a man who shares his square jaw and thinning hair. His father, I assume. The laughter dies instantly when the door clicks shut behind me. Heads turn. Glasses freeze midway to lips. The Christmas music continues, its forced cheer now an absurd soundtrack to the frozen tableau. My gaze shifts to the mantelpiece where my parents' photo should be. Instead, a framed portrait of Derek's family beams back at me, while Mom and Dad have been relegated to a side table, half hidden behind a poinsettia. Oh. Tessa's voice finally breaks the silence. Her eyes widen in recognition, but not surprise. Not guilt. You're early. I figured you'd be somewhere fancier. New York, maybe. Aspen. The room stays silent. Derek shifts his weight, eyes fixed on the floor. Anyway, Tessa says, her voice dripping with that familiar, well-practiced passive aggression. It's nice you came back to our cabin. Our cabin? The words land like a punch. My eyes sweep the room. Suitcases stacked in the corner. Unopened mail scattered across the entry table. Derek's jacket hanging on the hook that's always held mine. This isn't a party. It's someone living in my home. A memory stirs. My 10th birthday, canceled because Tessa had a mild cold. Nothing serious. Just enough for Mom to decide my celebration could wait. It never happened. Protect Tessa, she'd say. She's weaker than you. She needs more care. I absorbed that message for years, shaping myself around her needs. The The pattern set early, reinforced daily until sacrifice became second nature. But standing here now, watching strangers relax in the space I built for myself, something shifts. A crack forms in the foundation of obligation I've spent a lifetime maintaining. For the first time, I question whether protection has turned into enabling, whether care has twisted into something harmful for both of us. The music keeps playing. Tessa watches me, challenge flickering in her eyes, and I hover in the doorway of my own cabin, unsure whether to step inside or turn away. The silence between us stretches thin, like taffy, sweet expectations pulling apart into something bitter. My fingernails press into my palms, grounding me against the storm rising inside. Tessa's eyes narrow, daring me to react. She's expecting it, the lecture, the shouting, the scene. Our familiar rhythm. She pushes, I explode, she cries victim, not this time. I scan the room, taking in every trespass. Derek's parents settled in my reading chair, wine glasses perched on the armrests where stains will surely form. Their faces shift slowly from holiday cheer to uneasy confusion as the seconds tick by. The woman, June, I remember from Tessa's wedding, clutches her cardigan like armor. We didn't know, she stammers, glancing between Tessa and me. Tessa said you'd given permission, that you wanted them to use the cabin for the holidays. A bitter laugh almost escapes me. Of course she did. Derek stares at the floor, shoulders slumped, thumb worrying the edge of his watch band, a nervous habit I've seen at countless family gatherings. He knows. He always knows when Tessa lies, yet never stops her. I believe you, I say, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. I look directly at June and her husband, pointedly ignoring my sister. But let me be clear. You have 24 hours to leave this house and return it to how you found it. The temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees. A glass clinks too sharply against the table. If it's not spotless when I return, I'll call the police. The words leave me without anger or venom, just calm, simple fact. Tessa freezes, wine glass halfway to her lips. This isn't how our scenes usually go. I'm supposed to yell, plead, bargain, feeding her need for drama. But I stay still, silent. The quiet says what shouting never could. I didn't know she'd do this, Derek murmurs at last, lifting his gaze. His eyes hold real regret, but it's too little, too late. How many times has he apologized for her without ever stopping her? June rises abruptly, nudging her husband's arm. We should pack our things, Richard. Her voice carries that brittle politeness of someone desperate to leave. She begins gathering belongings, throwing anxious looks toward Tessa. One by one, the others follow, abandoning half-empty glasses and uneaten cookies. By midnight, no one will meet my eyes except Tessa, whose disbelief has curdled into fear. She's realized I'm not bluffing this time. I don't engage. No arguments. No explanations. No chance for her to twist the story into another accusation of control. I simply turn, close the door softly behind me, and walk toward my car. Snow falls in thick flakes, catching in my hair and melting against my heated skin. Each step through the growing white feels deliberate, measured, final, ceremonial, almost. Behind me stands the cabin I bought after 3 relentless years of work, 60-hour weeks and silent sacrifices. Ahead lies a future where, for once, I come first. I drive away without looking back. The cabin's warm glow fades in the rearview mirror as the wipers beat a steady rhythm against the glass. Each turn on the mountain road carries me further from a lifetime of enabling. 2 hours later, I pull into a small roadside motel, its flickering vacancy sign cutting through the darkening sky. The room is plain but clean, nothing like my carefully curated cabin, yet it feels like sanctuary. I make a cup of instant coffee from the courtesy tray and sit by the window, watching snowflakes dance beneath the street lamp. My anger burns hot. At first, my thoughts spiral through everything taken from me, not just the property, but years of giving without boundaries. By midnight, the fire inside burns down to embers, leaving exhaustion in its place. And by dawn, from those ashes, something new rises. Clarity. This was never about them taking my house. I whispered to my reflection in the frosted glass. It's about them believing I'd never stop them. Steam from my coffee fogs the window as I start a quiet inventory of all the times I've gone too far to help Tessa. The apartment in Burlington, where I covered half her rent for 3 years while she found herself. The car loans I co-signed despite her shaky credit and endless vacations. The company reputation I put on the line to help Derek's parents secure a mortgage after their bankruptcy. A pattern takes shape. Sharp, undeniable. My promise to protect Tessa after our parents' funeral became a chain, binding me to endless giving and her to endless taking. What began as love and duty twisted into something distorted. I can still see the look in Derek's eyes when she said our cabin. Not gratitude, not even entitlement. Something darker, resentment, as if my help was both expected and despised. Every gift a reminder of her dependence. And for the first time, I see it clearly. My protection has been her prison, and my sacrifice, her sentence. We're trapped in roles neither of us chose, but both sustained. The coffee grows cold in my hands as snow continues to fall, covering everything in clean white. Tomorrow I'll return to the cabin, unsure whether they've complied or escalated. But whatever waits for me there, something essential has shifted. The chain is broken. Whether Tessa realizes it yet or not, everything has changed. The next morning, my phone buzzes on the nightstand, dragging me from deep sleep. I squint at the screen, the soft light filtering through the cabin windows, making it hard to read Tessa's message. We left the cabins cleaned. I'm sorry, I sit up, instantly awake. The cabin feels different, quieter, emptier. I slip on my robe and head into the living room, bracing myself for the aftermath of Hurricane Tessa. But what I find stops me cold. The place gleams. Not a cushion out of place, not a trace of dust on the coffee table. Even the kitchen counters sparkle, polished to a shine. The Christmas decorations Tessa and Derek's family had scattered everywhere. Gone. The gaudy tree above the fireplace has vanished. My parents' photo is back in its rightful spot, perfectly centered, the glass cleaned so thoroughly it nearly disappears. Room by room, I walk through the cabin, finding everything restored to its original state. The stillness feels almost otherworldly, as if nothing had ever happened. The only trace of their presence is this immaculate perfection, an overcorrection that reeks of guilt. That evening, I build a fire in the hearth and open a bottle of Cabernet I'd been saving for a special moment. This feels like one. Settling into my favorite chair, I raise my glass to the quiet room. To boundaries, I whisper. The flames dance across the walls, casting warmth over my living room, mine truly for the first time in years. I'm experiencing a holiday without the weight of obligation pressing down, without the dull ache of guilt for choosing myself. Peace, I realize, can be its own kind of victory. I savor the wine, letting it linger. Something deeper than relief settles in me. This isn't just about winning a single battle with Tessa. It's about reclaiming my life. The next few days unfold in quiet reflection. Each morning, I sit by the window with coffee, tracing the pattern that's defined our relationship since our parents died. Watching snow drift over the pines, I mentally catalog every way I enabled Tessa's dependence. The discounted rent on her apartment. I told myself she just needed help getting started. The monthly payments on her Jeep Compass. I convinced myself it was safer than the old one. The credit card with my name as guarantor. Just until she built her credit, I said. With distance and clarity, I see now how compassion without boundaries breeds entitlement. Each act of generosity stopped being a gift and became an expectation. Each sacrifice reinforced the idea that her needs came before mine. A plan begins to take shape and deliberate, not vengeful. I take no satisfaction in what comes next, only a quiet resolve to dismantle the unhealthy system I helped create. I open my laptop and start the process. First, an email to Tessa's property manager, ending the rent subsidy. Then, a call to the auto loan company to cancel the automatic Jeep payments. I draft formal letters withdrawing my financial guarantees on her credit cards and utilities. Every message is professional, composed. No anger, no guilt. Just precision, a clear statement of fact. Effective immediately. I will no longer be responsible for these obligations. 3 days later, the first consequence lands in my inbox. Subject line, Tessa Miller is behind on rent. My finger hesitates over the delete key. Old instincts whisper, would step in, fix it, protect her. Instead, I type, follow the lease. Send the 14-day non-payment notice. I pause before adding, file eviction if necessary. No exceptions. After hitting send, guilt knots in my stomach. I breathe through it, reminding myself this isn't cruelty. It's correction. For both of us. 3 weeks later, another email arrives. Vehicle repossession completed. Attached is a photo of Tessa's white Jeep being lifted onto a tow truck. Snow drifts through the gloomy twilight. I delete the email without replying, without feeling anything beyond a quiet acknowledgement. The guilt is fading, replaced by something that feels like strength. On the final day of my retreat, I tidy the cabin. I open closets and drawers, uncovering traces Tessa left behind over the years. A scarf still hanging from a hook, earrings forgotten on the bathroom shelf. Dog-eared novels stacked by the guest bed. I gather everything, place it in a box, and mail it to her address. Then I rearrange the furniture, shaping the space to fit my own rhythm. I swap throw pillows, hang new artwork, and carve out a reading nook in the corner where Derek's family once piled their luggage. With each change, the cabin transforms, becoming wholly mine, free of compromise. As the sun sinks on my final evening, I stand in the center of the room. The space now mirrors the boundaries I've drawn in my life. Clear, deliberate, necessary. For the first time in years, I can breathe without resentment pressing against my ribs. This isn't just a cabin anymore. It's freedom. A month passes like sand through an hourglass. Each grain another day the phone doesn't ring. The silence feels foreign. After years of Tessa's endless demands consuming my attention, I've filled the quiet with small joys. Reading the books that long gathered dust on my nightstand, taking a downtown cooking class, reconnecting with friends who'd stopped inviting me to spontaneous plans. Then my phone buzzes against the coffee table. Tessa's name flashes on the screen. The piece I've built quivers like still water struck by a pebble. I almost let it go to voicemail, but habit wins. Reagan. Her voice cracks around my name. Thank God you answered. I press the phone closer. What's wrong? Everything. A dam bursts in her words, releasing a flood of grievances. Derek's mother called me lazy, said I don't contribute anything to their household. And Derek just stood there. He didn't defend me. In the background, I hear cupboard doors slamming, footsteps pacing across the hardwood. Then Derek joined in, telling me to grow up, to get a job, that I can't expect to be taken care of forever. Her breath catches. He brought up the cabin, said I embarrassed him in front of his family. The old alarm bells start ringing inside me. That familiar current runs through my veins, the urge to fix, to smooth things over, to make everything okay for Tessa. I press my palm against the cold window pane, watching snowflakes dissolve against the glass. Please, Reagan. Her voice drops to that soft, pleading whisper that's worked on me since we were kids. I just need one more chance. Help me fix this. Tell Derek I'm trying. Let me stay with you for a while, just until things calm down. I close my eyes. The pattern unfolds with painful clarity. The crisis, the plea, my rescue. Then the gratitude that never lasts, melting into expectation, then resentment. A cycle we've repeated my entire adult life. You're 31, Tessa. The words leave my mouth calm and steady, surprising even me. I'm not your mother. Silence hums between us. What's that supposed to mean? She snaps, her tone defensive. It means I can't fix your marriage or your issues with Derek's family. You need to take responsibility for your own life. No lecture. No advice, just truth. Finally spoken. The silence stretches until I wonder if the call's been cut off. Then her voice returns, sharp, brittle. You ruined everything. If it weren't for you, my life wouldn't be like this. I hold the phone away from my ear as she continues. You always think you know better than everyone else. You're the reason I never learned to handle things. You made me dependent, and now you're abandoning me when I need you most. Behind her accusations, I hear drawers yanked open, objects hitting walls, a home unraveling. Don't blame your sister. You did this to yourself. Derek's voice cuts through the chaos, startling me. I hadn't realized he'd been listening. Stay out of this. Tessa screams, her voice fading as if she's turned away from the phone. No, I'm done staying out of it, Derek snaps back. Your sister's right. You're an adult, but you act like a teenager waiting for someone else to clean up your messes. Their argument spirals, words crashing over one another like stones in a landslide. Then something breaks. Glass shatters against a hard surface. Look what you made me do, Tessa shrieks. More crashes follow, punctuated by Derek's furious demands for her to stop destroying things that aren't hers. I listen, neither interrupting nor hanging up. This isn't my storm to weather, the line goes dead. The sudden silence feels thick, weighted with years of expectation finally breaking loose. I set the phone down beside me. No impulse stirs to call back, to check if Tessa's okay, to patch things over. Instead, I exhale slowly, feeling the last threads of misplaced responsibility unwind from my shoulders. Everything has fallen apart on its own, without my interference. The burden of consequence belongs to Tessa now, as it always should have. Relief washes through me. Not because I want her to suffer, but because I no longer have to shield her from the inevitable. 3 weeks later, the news reaches me through Mark, a mutual friend from back home. Derek has filed for divorce. Tessa lost her apartment after his parents, the owners, asked her to move out. The car she drove was registered to Derek's company. Her reputation, once carefully curated, now lies in ruins after a public meltdown at a restaurant that left their entire social circle watching in disbelief. I take no pleasure in any of it. Each update lands without triumph, only quiet understanding. Sometimes people have to hit bottom before they can discover their own strength. Winter loosens its hold on Boston. March brings softer air, and the trees along my street begin to bud again. The seasons shift, and so do we. Whether we're ready or not, the last traces of snow fade from the shaded corners of my yard. When my phone rings again, Tessa's name lights up the screen, a test of these new boundaries we've drawn. This time I answer without hesitation. Reagan. Her voice trembles, but not like before. Softer, smaller. I'm sorry, please. Just give me one more chance. I stand at the window, watching a robin gather twigs for its nest. Spring has arrived, carrying the quiet promise of renewal, but only for those willing to rebuild with their own hands. I'm listening, I say, and I mean it. For the first time in our adult lives, I'm truly listening to my sister instead of rushing to save her. What happens next is hers to decide. 3 days later, the morning light filters through the cabin windows, catching dust motes that drift like memories in the air. I sit by the window seat, watching droplets of snow slip from the eaves, each one surrendering to the inevitable thaw. Beyond the cabin, the lake begins to shed its icy skin, revealing glimpses of clear water beneath, much like the fog lifting from my own thoughts. Tessa sits across from me, fingers curled around a steaming mug of coffee. 3 months of silence, broken by a single phone call that neither of us expected. No shouting match at the cabin, no dramatic confrontation. Just me turning around and driving back to Boston, letting Tessa face the results of her own choices for once. You look different, she says, studying me with the careful scrutiny she usually saves for leverage. I am different. The words come easily now, without the defensive edge they once carried. She traces the rim of her mug, searching for the right opening, a familiar gesture, the prelude to a request. But this time something is different between us. The scale has finally begun to balance. I used to be the place you came home to, I say quietly, surprising myself with the softness of the truth. The safety net always waiting to catch you. Her eyes widen a little. This isn't our usual script. Now it's time you stand on your own. I hold her gaze, steady, kind, but unyielding. And the day you do, I'll be the first to be proud of you. Silence settles between us. Not the heavy kind filled with resentment, but something closer to mutual respect. For once we let the moment breathe, honoring both what's been lost and what might still be found. I rise and walk to the kitchen, returning with the bottle of Pinot Noir I've been saving. Not as an escape this time, but as acknowledgement. I pour 2 glasses and hand one to Tessa. What are we celebrating? She asks, a thread of caution in her voice. Freedom, I say. Yours and mine. We sip quietly, watching the last snowdrops melt from the eaves, fading into the awakening earth below. Later, as Tessa gathers her things to leave, something profound settles in the space where guilt once lived. The understanding that love doesn't end, it transforms. It grows beyond codependency into something freer, kinder. The freedom I've offered Tessa and myself might be the truest form of respect I've ever given. The realization lands softly. Sometimes helping means not helping at all. The burden I've carried since our parents' death hasn't vanished. But it's shifted, redistributed to shoulders that are finally ready to bear their own weight. Relief replaces guilt, flowing through me like a spring thaw after the longest winter. When I return to work that Monday, Janet notices right away. "You seem different," she says, echoing Tessa's words as we prep for the morning meeting. "More present." I smile, arranging my notes with a confidence that feels both new and deeply familiar. Like rediscovering a part of myself long neglected, I've started setting boundaries. "Well, it suits you," she says, pausing at the conference room door. "By the way, Parker wants to see you after this. Something about the West Ridge account. The West Ridge account. Our biggest client. Usually reserved for senior managers." My pulse quickens as I take my seat at the table. 2 hours later, I'm standing in Parker's office as he offers me the promotion I once thought impossible. Back when I was juggling Tessa's endless crises. "Your presentation last month sealed it," he says. That kind of assertiveness, that clarity of vision, that's exactly what Westbridge responds to. My colleagues notice the change, in my confidence, in my presence. Lunch invitations start to multiply. Collaborative projects that once felt like burdens now ignite genuine creativity. Success no longer feels compromised by family drama waiting in my inbox or voicemail. I start reaching out to friends I'd lost touch with during the Tessa years. Coffee with Marlene turns into dinner with her and her husband, a weekend hiking trip with my college roommate. Julie tells me how much she missed me, how much I missed. "I worried about you," she admits as we rest on a fallen log, water bottles in hand. "You disappeared into Tessa's problems. It was like watching someone drown in slow motion." The honesty stings, but not like it once would have. "I thought I was being strong," I tell her. "Taking care of everyone." "And now?" she asks. "Now I know strength isn't carrying everything. It's knowing what's yours to carry." We build this chosen family beyond blood and obligation. People who want my presence, not those who need my rescue. 3 months after that cabin conversation, an email from Tessa arrives. No dramatic subject line, no urgent plea. Just her name in my inbox on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. I open it between meetings, braced for manipulation, only to find a simple update about a new job, a new apartment. No demands, no guilt-laced persuasion. Just the first fragile signs of genuine independence rising from the ashes of our old patterns. My reply is measured, intentional. I suggest coffee next week, setting clear boundaries. 2 hours on Saturday afternoon at the cafe near her new job. A reset. 2 adults meeting as equals, free from the shadow of caretaking that once clouded everything. As I press send, an unfamiliar feeling surfaces. Hope. Without its heavy twin, expectation. Hope without duty or guilt attached. Just hope, standing on its own. Much like Tessa must now learn to do, and like the last snowdrops melting from the eaves of my cabin, the remnants of our unhealthy bond fade away, leaving space for something new to take root. 6 months have reshaped this cabin completely. I trace my fingers along the new security panel, admiring how seamlessly it fits with the rustic wood. The motion sensors outside offer peace of mind without turning the cabin into a fortress. Balance. That's what I've finally achieved. The invasion left no visible scars. Everything Derek's family touched has been replaced, cleaned, or rearranged. This time according to what I want, not what I feel obligated to keep, on the right. Mantle now sit Mom and Dad's photo, centered between snapshots that spark genuine joy. Summiting Mount Washington last fall, laughing with coworkers at a retreat, and a candid of me painting the kitchen Cabernet red. simply because I wanted. 2. I light a lavender and cedar candle, my favorite scent, the one Tessa always claimed gave her headaches, and glance around the room. The furniture now faces the Vermont mountains instead of the television. My first edition mysteries fill the bookshelf, instead of being boxed away to make room for others' tastes. Every detail reflects authenticity, not accommodation. My phone timer chimes, guests arriving in 30 minutes. My first dinner party here since reclaiming this space. 8 friends from work and my hiking group will soon fill these rooms with conversation. The table is set with mismatched vintage plates I've gathered from small-town antique shops. Another choice that would have horrified Tessa's idea of proper entertaining. Later, the cabin hums with laughter. Wine glasses clink as Lauren raises a toast to Reagan, her voice warm and sincere. To the one who reminds us of the power of boundaries, courage, and chosen family. 8 glasses lift in unison. The approval in their eyes doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like recognition. These connections ask nothing of me except authenticity. Marcus, our company's creative director, leans back in his chair. My roommate tried reorganizing my record collection by color last week, nearly filed for divorce. Everyone bursts out laughing, including me. 6 months ago, a joke about difficult roommates would have sent me spiraling with anxiety. Back then, memories of Tessa's intrusions would have flooded in. Tonight, it's just harmless laughter among friends. Same situation, completely different response. After dessert, while everyone drifts toward the fireplace with fresh drinks, I slip into the kitchen for a breather. Another boundary I've learned to set, without apology. Through the doorway, I watch them laugh, at ease in my home, coexisting without consuming it. The contrast to Derek's family sprawling over these same rooms couldn't be sharper. The next morning, with the cabin finally quiet, I open my leather-bound journal on the sunlit deck. The spring air carries hints of pine and possibility. I write, "Love doesn't require the sacrifice of self. The greatest gift I've given myself is permission to exist fully, without apology, without compression. I'm no longer defined by being Tessa's older sister, the one who carries everyone's emotional weight, who shrinks herself so others can feel larger." The pen glides easily across the page, recording a truth I've finally claimed. For decades, I equated responsibility with self-sacrifice, abandoning my own needs to meet everyone else's. Therapy has rewritten that belief entirely. Real responsibility, I've learned, begins with self-care, grows through boundaries, and only then extends to others. The cabin phone rings. I answer without checking the caller ID, another quiet milestone. "It's Dr. Norris," she says, confirming next Tuesday's appointment. "Looking forward to it," I reply, and for once, I mean it. Weekly therapy has become sacred time instead of a shameful secret. Together, we've traced family patterns that span generations. The martyrdom passed from my grandmother to my mother, then to me. How Tessa learned helplessness as her role in our family's story, while my own work has flourished free of those emotional distractions. Last month's promotion came, in part, because I stopped saying yes to every crisis project. By focusing on quality work within healthy limits, I created space for deeper, more intentional commitments. Saying no made room for meaningful yes. New friendships have replaced the draining connections that once filled my calendar. Quality over quantity, another hard-earned lesson. Every relationship now rests on the solid ground of mutual respect instead of shifting sands of obligation. 2 weeks later, in the office break room, Kelly, a junior marketing associate, approaches me hesitantly. "Do you have a minute?" she asks, clutching her coffee mug like a shield. We sit by the window as she explains her dilemma. Parents. Insisting on weekly Sunday dinners, her partner feeling unwelcome, the guilt pressing down each time she thinks of skipping one. "You always seem so together," she says softly, "like you know exactly where your boundaries are." The irony makes me smile. That's fairly new, I admit. 6 months ago, I found my sister living in my vacation home, without permission. Kelly's eyes widen. "What did you do?" "Something I should have done years ago," I say. "I realized I can love people from a distance, whatever distance is necessary to stay healthy." The words come not from wounded pride, but from hard-earned clarity. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for everyone is say no. She nods slowly, letting it sink in. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Later that evening, my phone buzzes with a text. Tessa's name appears on the screen, no longer sparking that old fight-or-flight reaction. Hey, thinking about taking some online classes. Community college has a business program. Would you mind looking at the course list when you have time? No rush. I read it twice, noticing what's missing: demands, guilt, manipulation, urgency. Her message is simple, respectful, even considerate of my time. I set the phone down, promising myself I'll reply tomorrow. For once, I'm not rushing to please. Maybe the roots of a healthier connection are starting to take hold. Not guaranteed, but possible. Either way, I'm grounded, able to engage or step back as needed. The Vermont sunset spills amber and rose across the mountains as I sink into the Adirondack chair on my deck. Journal open, glass of Cabernet in hand. I write my final reflection of the day. Love remains. Boundaries simply define where it begins and ends. A ringtone echoes softly through the open door behind me. My pulse stays steady, my breath calm. Whatever crisis or connection waits on the other end, it can wait until I'm ready. The peace I feel isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of wholeness. Have you ever had to choose between pleasing family and protecting yourself? What did it teach you? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. Subscribe.